Hello and welcome to another episode of Rose Guns Days. And today, we may or may not find out what the plan is. So I'm excited. Because last time, the plan was not revealed. What happened instead was, Rose had another meeting with Wang, this time alone, so Richard was not there. Wang continues to put the pressure on her, with veiled threats. It's threats all the way down with this guy. And more talk about how the reason that the soy sauce plan failed is that Primavera didn't show enough respect to the GDS. If only they'd shown respect, then everything would have been fine, which I think we all know is not actually true. He would have tried to take him down regardless. Or maybe tried to take them over, or, he's putting the blame on Rose even though, well, he's the bad guy. He's the bad guy in this situation. There's no real way around that. He says he's willing to give Primavera another chance. And Rose says she will consider it. She doesn't say yes, she doesn't say no either. Just, we'll consider it. Just before she leaves, Wang pointedly asks her, how have you been feeling lately? Any pain? Any chest pain? Or, just needling at her, asking about the poisoning attempt that he instigated, or what do you call it when you take out a hit on someone? That's what he did. He took a hit out on her, basically. And then he taunts her over it because, yep. Meanwhile, the Wandering Dogs are planning their rescue operation of Zell's dad, together with Meiju and Xiaolan, and, we find out. It's trying very hard to remember what happened there, because I recorded it in 2 parts now, because it's easier. Sometimes I can't keep apart, like, did this happen in the previous episode? Or did this happen in the episode, 2 recordings ago? Or the 3 recordings ago, which would be the episode before that. It's complicated. And my notes are bad. So, oops. But no, we find out that Zell's father is locked up on the 5th floor of Wang's restaurant, where he had the dinner with Rose, by the way. And her father is secured by the same system that keeps Wang's liquor cabinet, sealed up. The intricate system that only allows you to open it 1 time per day, the same time every day, for only a short period of time. After all the clocks are done ringing, Not only that, but he keeps the key on him at all times. Plus, it's the 5th floor, there's guards on every floor. The situation seems hopeless. Somehow, though, Zell, brilliant as she is, as she's proven to be, she has a eureka moment and comes up with a plan, which we're not told about. What we do know is that it involves Charles doing some very precise pickpocketing, and also throwing the key that he plans to pickpocket in a specific direction, like behind him, so he can't even see where it's going, so that requires a lot of training. It also involves Nina using her slingshot, her new upgraded slingshot, extra powerful, using it to sling grenades. You heard that right? Grenades. So my first thought was explosives, but I think maybe now I'm thinking something to make people sleep? Maybe? Perhaps? Or, I don't know, like a smoke grenade? To be more, well, I wouldn't call that stealthy per se, but to at least move around the building unseen. While the kids train and hone their skills, including some training with guns, because they are taking guns for self-protection, Claudia and her fellow merchants and business owners are invited to a display of sorts by Wang. He shows them truckloads of goods. Japanese foods that they could be selling if they stop dealing with Primavera and do business with the GDS instead. Which, of course, is very tempting for the merchants, because, wow, you could make more money. And they're all still struggling after the war. During his whole sales pitch, Wang also makes veiled threats. Like I said, it's just threats with this guy. He loves threatening. They're subtle threats, but they're there. He also tells outright lies about Primavera threatening the president of a company and forcing him to deal with them. It's a lie. And, well, Claudia knows it, but not everyone believes her. Some of the merchants are won over despite the threats, or, I don't know, maybe they ignore the threats. Maybe they're just, they're going where the money goes, right? So they are tempted by specifically the money and consider switching sides. Once he's alone, however, Wang reveals that he has no intention of actually dealing with the merchants. He's just pulling the wool over their eyes and gonna take them down when he can. Because, because he's evil. And we know this because he closes off that little bit of inner monologue with some evil laughter. And that's where we left off. Yeah, see, there's the evil laughter right there. Okay. That's good for me, because that means that I didn't forget any of what happened last time. So I didn't forget any of the recap. Now before we start, I kind of rolled into it this time. It was very smooth, but a little too smooth, because I forgot one thing along the way. It's our usual content warning. Reminder, if there is a need for more extensive detailed content warnings for this episode, I will cut them in right now. And they will also be the rest of the same content warning, if I just added one in right now, will be in the description, including timestamps to skip the scenes where these happen, or just to, be aware of what you're getting into and when it's gonna happen. Additional content warnings for this episode based on everything we've seen so far: gun violence, racism, sexual content, including references to assault. You'd think I'd know how to say that after all these times I've said that now. But no. Misogyny, alcohol abuse, characters dealing with trauma, depression, other mental health issues, and mentions of human trafficking. So keep that in mind. I don't expect many of these to be relevant now because we're about to do a heist, but there will probably be violence, so that's unavoidable. And sometimes some of these come out of left field, so yeah. Let's see. That's it. I'm done. I can go home and wait. No, I gotta read. And I am home. I'm doing this at home. When you kick, you always do it haphazardly, simply relying on force. Meiju straightforwardly pointed out Oliver's faults as a martial artist, but Oliver wasn't satisfied. Even Oliver was a lone wolf from alleys. A wolf who idolized Wayne. One thing I did forget in the recap is that the kids found out that Meiju was involved in the big event with Rose and Leo and the others taking down Father Caleb. What they don't know is that Wayne was not really super involved in that. He did some things. I'll be honest, I don't remember what. I don't remember what exactly, but Meiju and Xiaolan made a very conscious decision to not tell the kids about his exact involvement. So they don't know. He could brag about surviving with nothing but his body. He couldn't bear to have his talent criticized. We will hone it more. Your aim was half-hearted. One more time. Also a reminder, Meiju's like a really talented martial artist himself. And I think... Did he and Leo fight, or did they say they would fight? I don't think they did fight. But yeah, he's scary powerful. So he knows what he's talking about. Even if he didn't understand what Xiaolan muttered in Chinese, it was easy for him to guess that she wasn't praising his kick. You must refine it more. Reach your target as though hitting a needlepoint. Shut up. I kick my own way. If you like those clever acrobatics, do them yourself. I've got my pride from living on my own in the alleys. You outsiders can go away. My. I do believe he hates me. Oliver, Meiju-san was kind enough to offer to practice with you. Oh, he's becoming more like Wayne by the day. Sulkily, Oliver wiped away his sweat and silently continued to kick by himself. Oliver would fill an extremely important and difficult role in the plan. His job was to secure the treasure room that Zel's father was being kept in. And there would certainly be a single guard standing in front of the door. It's getting ready to click. He had to take that one person down in a single shot without anyone hearing. If the opponent was facing the other way, it might be possible to strangle him, but he couldn't count on that. After all, this would be a guard in the treasure house, which held many of Wang's prized treasures. Even though it was one person, he would probably be tense and waiting. Oliver couldn't count on him slacking off. It was necessary for him to knock the man out from the front with a single strike. It's true that handguns with silencers that can be used for assassinations exist in this world. However, they don't totally erase the sound of gunfire. No matter how hard they try, they release gunfire more than 70 decibels loud. If that rang through the open area that extended up to the 5th floor, it wouldn't be at all odd if someone noticed. Your best kick is a one-hit finisher. That's the only thing we can use. I know. That's why I'm training hard and polishing my skills, isn't it? But why aren't you listening when you're getting precious instructions from Meiju-san? Zel finally remembered. Oliver had grown obedient lately, and he'd started listening to what Zel said. But he hadn't used to be like that. He was once a blockhead who acted like a lone wolf and never listened to what anyone had to say. I actually also forgot about that. But yeah, that was a while ago. When Meiju, a person he didn't trust, criticized his prized kick, it probably ticked him off at once. I fight for my comrades in my own way. I won't take instructions from a Chinese man. Then, if I say something, will you listen? If it's about something other than my kick. At any rate, he didn't seem willing to listen to any advice regarding fighting. However, after reflexively saying something harsh to Zell, Oliver also seemed uncomfortable. Good. He pretended to ignore Zell and went back to pretending to kick. Okay, then why don't we spar for a bit? What? Spar with you? He knew that, true enough, Zell was capable of moving with practiced motions. But even so, she was a frail woman. He thought of Zell as their leader, not as someone whose role it was to fight. Has she not, done insane physical stunts before? And taken down guys, way bigger than her? I mean, dude. Dude! You just get in the way. I can't get serious against you. Ha! Look who's talking. Okay. I'll give you a good thrashing so you can get serious. What are you talking about? Stop. You'll get hurt. Buddy, worry about yourself. Now this will be a sight to see. We get to witness Hotarubi's combat skills. Zell slowly walked towards him. Her eyes were serious. She seriously intended to spar with Oliver. Oliver hesitated at first, but then he put on an irritated face and readied himself. I never learned how to go easy or stop my attacks before hitting. Same here. This will be the first time I've ever acted out in violence to do anything but protect myself or kill. Interesting. Let's get some good sparring in. I don't think it's gonna be sparring if neither of you know how to pull your punches. It's just gonna be a beatdown. Here we go. Zell bowed in the manner of Japanese martial arts. Oliver hurriedly imitated her. However, the next moment, Zell's pinpoint accurate strike was right before Oliver's eyes. Oh, that's loud. I need to turn down my volume a little bit. Okay, that's okay. Oh shit. No. She's so fast. Zell's kicking my ass. If he didn't go easy, Zell would be seriously injured. It took only an instant for that assumption to be shattered to pieces. He took an assault like a thunderstorm before he knew it, and ended up spread eagle on the floor with his arms bent. He made a frail effort to counter, but he couldn't even bring it to a draw. Oliver had lost completely. Look. See my arm? It's thin, right? Not like a man's. Without taking special training over a long time, it couldn't display the same amount of force as a man's. That's why I aim for holes in the enemy's guard and vital areas. Even a woman's strength can be incredibly powerful. Vital areas. Even so, I wasn't able to defeat you instantly. It took that many moves. That's why I can't do this. No matter how much more I train, I won't be able to take down a guard in an instant. Only you can do that. We only have a hope if we combine your power with the techniques needed to hit vital areas. I can't save Father without relying on you, Oliver. But you won't even try to learn good form. What should I do? Zell covered her face and ran away. Oliver stumbled from the floor to his feet with a shameful expression. Damn. When I was young, I was like you. The strength of my youth was my only pride. It would merely be a pain to learn any more. But one day, I learned my limitations. Because of the powerlessness caused by pride, my strength didn't measure up. And my little sister cried because of me. Men are such foolish animals. Are they pitiable creatures who cannot even rouse themselves until they make frail girls cry? You should cool your head. If you need my advice, then let me know whenever... Bang. Oliver kicked the concrete wall so hard it looked like his foot would plunge deep into it. Without moving from that position, he groaned in a voice that sounded like it was being forced out. Me? What was that? Tell me, what's so bad about my kick, damn it? Please tell me, Meiju-sama. If you say that... Tell me, Meiju-san. Oliver's back shook slightly. He had cried out from the bottom of his soul. This is all I have. I can't do any clever stunts like Charles and Nina. This is all I can do. If even that one thing can't help Zell, I couldn't bear it. Damn it. Because I'm a fool, I made Zell cry when she's falling apart from worrying about her dad all the time. Beat me into shape. If I fall apart and slump over, then it means that was the best I'm capable of. Ah, youth. Very well. I will beat you into shape. Zell and Xiaolan were stealthily watching this from the corridor. Then, when Oliver roused himself, they let out a quiet cheer. She really is good at acting, huh? Well said, Oliver. Good going. Fake tears. What that be? You're good. Okay, let's leave the rest to Meiju-san. Now I've got to give it my all. Everyone was training hard to fulfill their roles for the plan. Even Zell had a role. Now it was the time for Zell to start her special training. The arranged time was drawing near. Xiaolan was an observer. She had to follow Zell around. However, she had no idea where Zell would be training or what she would be doing. Everyone said they thought I could do it. But I'm really uneasy. What are they making you do? I'm not confident at all. Maybe I just got a bit too excited when they all spurred me on. The two of them left the city. The sun shone brightly, baking the asphalt. It was probably just about noon. The girl's destination was Club Primavera. During the daytime, behind-the-scenes work such as cleaning and restocking took place in Club Primavera. For a club of ladies of the evening, daytime was bedtime. Long time no see, Zell. It's been far too long, Madame Rose. Don't worry about it anymore. More importantly, I'm glad. So now you know what you need to do. Madame Rose. Don't get any closer. I haven't decided to trust you, okay? Stop that, Wayne-kun. She's my friend. Boss, I apologize for the trouble I've caused. I'm not your boss. Scat. Wayne made a curt gesture for her to go away. Even though, if he still considered Zell to be a hitman, letting her go away wouldn't do much to protect Rose. Rose understood this pubescent boy part of him and giggled. Zell belatedly realized that yes, this was the guy Oliver was trying to imitate, and giggled too. And you're Xiaolan-chan from Meiji-san's group? She bowed in Japanese fashion, but she was exactly like an unsociable and suspicious cat. Hold up there. You stay away too, minion of the GDS. I forgot how to do Wayne's voice a bit, so if he sounds different, What? He's got a cold or something. Don't worry about it. Stop that, Wayne-kun. She's Meiji-san's guest. You can go over there. After watching Wayne leave grumpily, Zell and Rose broke out laughing together this time. At that moment, the grand piano on the main hall stage began making soft sounds. That person is... She's the one who taught me how to sing. She used to be a real teacher, so she was really good at it. Is it Amanda? It is! Miss Amanda, long time no see. I've heard all about it. I thought there was something more to this kid's story, but it sounds like you've had it rough. Watarubi, the female Japanese killer who worked secretly in Chinatown. Caleb and Miguel knew your name too. I'm ashamed. Not at all. Caleb thanked you. You know Zhang, that hitman from Baxianbang, whom you finished off once? Caleb wanted him so much he put out a reward. So, I'm willing to call it even in exchange for the teaching fees from this. Thank you very much. You sang well at that Chiba restaurant. You have talent. However, if you want to become good enough to fool people, you need to be prepared to practice till you cough up blood. That does not sound like a good time. Or like a smart idea, because that's just gonna mess up your whole Your whole business.
Amanda sounds strict, but she teaches really well. Good luck, Zell. Yes, ma'am. Amanda-san, I look forward to learning from you.
So, would you mind letting me hear your voice for a bit? Her personal lesson with Amanda began. Xiaolon was given soft drinks and snacks, but she wouldn't eat a bite. Possibly because they were being offered by enemies.
None of it's poisoned, so feel free to dig in.
And here comes Stella, who speaks Chinese as I keep forgetting, I'll be honest. Xiaolon refused in a prickly manner. Rose giggled at her over-seriousness. Xiaolon herself was now completely lost. First, pickpocketing training, then slingshot training, then martial arts training. That much she could still understand, but why singing training? Has she figured it out? She finally understood and clapped her hands. I think I have an idea too, but I won't say it. Because for anyone who hasn't figured it out yet, but is about to, I don't want to spoil it. Though I could be wrong, of course. I see. So that's what it is. This would be necessary for getting over one of what they call the 3 hurdles. The 3rd hurdle: how to sneak into a members-only, high-class restaurant. That restaurant offered live performances from guest musicians. Since the 4 wandering dogs were good with musical instruments, and Zell in particular had a beautiful singing voice, they'd grown famous in the old downtown districts. I see. So that's what it is. However, Huang's Castle was still a high-class restaurant. They would need considerable qualifications. It was a bit hard to imagine that a female singer from the old downtown districts and her band would be invited to a place like that.
Still, I'm not sure if this is interesting or insane. That's one crazy plan you've thought up.
If it goes neatly, it'd be perfect. But will it really run smoothly?
I think so. I think the odds are much better than starting a feud with the Caleb family with only 7 people. Well, that might be true.
Now that you mention it, I heard there's going to be a feud between us and the GDS, but is that true?
Yeah. I heard from Claudia too. Sounds like the businessmen are abandoning Primavera and planning to team up with the GDS. Lately, I've been thinking about what Primavera's role should be.
It's to protect our countrymen from enemies, right?
I prefer you made it cool and say it's to guide our countrymen or something.
At first, it was like Stella said, to protect our countrymen from enemies. They rose up against the violence of the Caleb family, protecting the city folk. The city folk welcomed this and supported Primavera.
After that, our goal became what Meryl said, to guide our countrymen.
They bought up special offers windows, got rid of unfair exploitation, and raised wages for low-level laborers. The city folk welcomed this and supported Primavera.
Next, I tried to guide our countrymen so
so that they could regain a Japanese lifestyle and culture. But they didn't support us. That's not true. A lot of people understood.
Well, I guess that's just what it's like for poor people. Thanks for protecting us. Thanks for giving us more money. Now, help us to regain our culture. Huh? Who cares?
We want you to buy real soy sauce even though it's expensive.
Quit joking around. Die. All of us Japanese are poor. Those poor people are only grateful for two things.
We're protecting them. We're giving them things. Only those two. Just like babies. If so, then I've been mistaken. It might be a little harsh. But with the war and the disaster of wiping the slate clean, the Japanese are the same as babies. To protect a baby and give it milk all the time is a parent's responsibility. It's affection. Making them learn a lot of things is also affection. But if you force it on a baby without considering their age and ability, it's no different than abuse. No matter how necessary a thing might be, humans can't learn it until they reach a suitable age. If a baby can't even crawl, then it's too soon to start multiplication or handwriting or piano lessons. You force that on them, then it's neither affection nor teaching anymore. It's just egoism. There's supposed to be a proper age for learning things. I must have been wrong for forcing that on the Japanese, who'd just been dragged back to square one 2 to 3 years earlier when they lost the war.
Rose.
If Rose had a sin, then it may have been that she overglorified the Japanese race. Her father, a foreigner, felt a deep yearning for Japan, which was a foreign country for him. That may have caused him to overglorify it at times. It wouldn't have been strange if young Rose had soaked that in unknowingly over time. Tokyo, the capital of Japan, was once called Edo, and was a prominent, large city on a worldwide scale. In that place, large numbers of people lived their lives by helping each other, and that was the sign of the Japanese spirit of cooperation, it was said. However, who knows if it really was a spirit of cooperation driven by neighborly love. While Edo was a massive city, it was also extremely overcrowded. Neighborly relations were complicated and deep, and yet, you couldn't move to a new house whenever you liked, like you can today. It was like having a class breakup in the first grade of middle school. I don't know why I said middle school. Yes, there is a middle school. I read that entire sentence out of order. It was like having a class breakup in the first grade of elementary school that continued into middle school, high school, college, and beyond. Maintaining the same community until you died. If you became unpopular or the bullied kid, you sometimes wouldn't get out of that pit for the rest of your life. Maybe that environment's why people strove for a mutually supporting community, formed pseudo-family ties, and guaranteed equal status for each other. It was an era without scientific investigations. If a terrible crime occurred and there was no evidence, you might be treated as the culprit simply because you were suspicious. When that happened, people who were isolated and disliked within the community probably served as convenient sacrifices. In fact, among the famous crimes with false accusations in the early Showa period, many resulted in isolated members of the community being sacrificed for various reasons. In other words, in the Edo era, the spirit of cooperation with your community was necessary for one's own protection. Or, put another way, it wasn't necessarily true that the spirit of cooperation beginning in that era, was caused by feelings of friendship. That makes sense, yeah. It may be that the Japanese don't really have a spirit of cooperation. If so, then what I'm doing is definitely cheap talk. I wouldn't go that far, though. I mean, you back up your own words with actions, so... You've been doing a ton to try and help people. You also doubled the wages, so... That's huge. An idealistic daydream from an optimistic adolescent girl. If so, then I have to wake up quickly. I have to see reality quickly. What is it our countrymen need right now? Safety and money. Just those two things. Then I'll go back to the basics. It might be best to concentrate on those two things alone. This whole time, Zell's lesson with Amanda had been continuing on the stage in the hall. Zell's voice definitely seemed to hold a talent that could shine like a diamond if polished. Rose watched with distant eyes. Those kids are the next generation of the Japanese. In other words, they're our children. What should we protect, and what should we leave behind? What should we pass down to make those kids happiest?
I don't know about stuff like that. What's needed in an era is up to the people of that era to decide. Even if we pass something down to them with our sense of value, who knows if they'll be happy with it?
If it has to be something, then I'd say it's the right to choose for themselves.
Huh?
Rose turned around with a truly surprised look on her face. Stella didn't think she'd said something particularly important. She just chimed in to fit the flow of the conversation.
Stella, what did you just say?
Sorry, I was just talking at random.
That wasn't random. Say it again. What did you just say?
I was talking about what it is our children in the future want. I said it's for them to decide, not us. They have a right to decide what it is they truly want, or something. Even Stella didn't really know what she was saying anymore. However, Rose looked at her as though she'd found something incredibly important.
Still, I get that. When I was a kid, the clothes my parents got me were always so uncool. I always wished I could make them let me choose my own clothes at least.
Yeah, I hear you. That sort of thing did happen, didn't it? Thank you, Stella. Meryl. I was a little confused, but now I finally know the direction to move in. I just now thought that my own selfish ideals were like trying to force clothes I like on my children. Ideals forced upon you by someone else aren't worth crap. I'm done. Done with those immature ideals. Thanks, you two. I won't be lost anymore. As I listened to this tale, I remembered a story I'd heard from my mother. We in the younger generation don't know much about Madame Rose. She's not on the net, and you won't find her name mentioned in wikis. However, my mother's generation had heard from their parents. They had heard Madame Rose's name. According to my mother, many people who knew Tokyo during that time knew of Madame Rose as well. However, they avoided talking about her. In fact, when I asked my father about Madame Rose, he walked away looking upset and refused to talk to me. Why? Madame Rose was the savior of her Japanese countrymen. She had been praised as such since the formation of Primavera. But her reputation had eventually changed. The Soy Sauce War. The war in which Madame Rose tried to regain Japanese pride and culture only to be betrayed by her countrymen. That was when Primavera slowly began to change its focus. I'm sorry to Madame Jeanne, who'd been telling me the story at such great length. But in fact, I've already heard more or less how this long tale ends. In the year 1948, Primavera withdrew its position of prioritizing mutual aid between countrymen. Primavera, which had been viewed as a group of heroes by the city folk, ended up degrading into a violent organization that was even called a revival of the Caleb family. My mother told me that the city folk were extremely disappointed and shocked by the fall of Madame Rose, who was once called their savior. She wasn't called a villain, but wasn't called a savior either. The people chose not to have an opinion about her, historically speaking. Speaking Madame Rose's name became taboo, and everyone refused to speak of her. Then, in 1950, 2 years after the world of this tale, a single girl rose up to defeat Primavera, gained the support of the city folk, and brought down Madame Rose. That girl was Amakawa Jun, or Madame Jeanne. I don't know what this person wants to leave behind about Madame Rose. Oh, I think I do actually. I think I'm on to the plan here. Damn. Well, we'll see if I'm right later. But yeah, I think I have a hunch as to what's going on there. I thought maybe I was selected as a fellow Japanese person from their future. Maybe I'm being asked to give my opinion of Madame Rose. In that case, what is my opinion of Madame Rose now? It's probably too early to draw any conclusions. Not until Madame Jeanne gets to the part where she defeats Madame Rose by her own hand. If I was forced to give my opinion at this point, then I might say that she was a sad idealist who was born too soon. Madame Rose was wounded in the Soy Sauce War and completely lost faith in her fellow countrymen. If that incident hadn't occurred, I'm sure she wouldn't have strayed down the wrong path. No endless. I think I flubbed a couple things there, so that makes sense. But yeah, the real question here, after all that, is, does that sound like the Rose we know? You know, does she seem like the type who would just give up and then start basically acting like a new Father Caleb? I don't think so. The hall of a luxury hotel in City 22 was filled with the camera flashes of many Chinese journalists. The flashes were directed at two people. A high official from the Chinese occupying forces, a suited man who appeared to be American, slightly past middle age. When the pictures of their handshake were all taken, they sat down on sofas, chatting through interpreters. The high official was Major General Zhou, head of the GHQ's Department for the Strategic Promotion of Culture and the Arts. The name of that department may be long, but put simply, it dealt with culture for the masses, such as movies, music, and plays. In this pre-internet age, newspapers, magazines, movies, and music were extremely important as a means of propaganda for the masses. America and China raced each other to build and screen propaganda movies for free. In this era, Japanese children who had no leisure activities often visited propaganda theaters of that sort. That area was America's specialty, but China was actively moving into it so that they wouldn't get left behind. This chatting American was a movie director. Director Kazan, what are your thoughts after your stay in Japan? To be honest, I was quite surprised. I heard Tokyo sustained incredible damage during the 1944 disaster, but look how far it's been rebuilt now. Can we get your thoughts on the restoration of the Chinese military areas in particular? Nearly all the reporters were Chinese. It was a natural question. America and China were putting their names on the line, racing to rebuild Japan. They wanted more than anything for an American director to praise the reconstruction brought about by China. I was able to see several Chinese military district cities as well. They all had wonderful, modern cityscapes. Okay, Director Kazan gives high praise to the reconstruction in Chinese districts. What did you think about the China-America Friendship Film Festival? It was a wonderful cultural experience. I think it would be wonderful if such an experience led to peace between the two countries, if not the whole world. Also, I would like to express my thanks towards Mr. Zhou for proposing such a wonderful experience. They were covered with relentless flashes again. Then, the reporters showered them with questions once more. As they did, Director Kazan clapped his hands as though he just remembered something. Oh, yes. As for things that left an impression, I've got one for you. There was a night when I wanted to be alone. I went out for a walk and stumbled upon a certain bar. At first, I thought it was a strangely energetic place, but I'll never forget the songstress I met there. Songstress? Who was it? Which bar? Well, I was walking about at random, so I can't remember where the bar was. Still, I'll never forget that girl's voice. It shocked me. To think I would bump into such an angelic voice so far from my home country. What's your home country to do with if people sound good or not? What? The director has told me the story several times, and said that he'd like to meet that girl again. If possible, I'd like to see her once more before leaving Japan. I just can't remember where that bar was. When I heard about this, it got me thinking. Just the perfect romantic movie-like episode for a director to bump into. Behind the meeting hall stood Meiju and Shaola. I see. So you could use that. Use that, even. It's common for Wang Yuanhong's restaurant to host guests who have been big in the news lately. As a man fond of new things, he can't take his eyes off newcomers who have broken into the public scene. This had been a farce set up by Meiji. A strategy to give some weight to the Wandering Dogs' musical activities by having them referenced by a famous movie director visiting Japan. And the director was appearing alongside a GHQ big shot. The Chinese reporters would probably take a hint and push this energetically. I have found the angel you fell for at first sight. Oh my god, really? I can't believe it. Of course, it was all a farce. Neither of them had gone into the sort of downtown pub that the Wandering Dogs performed in, much less met with Zell. The Major General, after motioning for everyone to welcome them with applause, invited the Wandering Dogs forward, with Zell at the head. The reporters stood up one after another, showering them with applause and camera flashes. Of course, the standing ovation was also part of the setup. The normal reporters, who got caught up in the farce, probably thought that some incredibly huge newcomer had appeared.
Major-sama, isn't this a little over the top?
This much is just fine. It's Major General Zhou's specialty. Oh, how incredible! To think that I get to meet you again.
It's an honor to meet you, Director Kazan.
I'll never forget the night I heard you sing. This is a miracle. Everyone, allow me to introduce them. This is the roaming band, the Wandering Cats. Very subtle. They were all orphans who lost their relatives in the war and the disaster. However, they gathered together amidst the rubble, formed bonds of friendship by overcoming many trials, and formed a 4-man group. So, you went through all that. Incredible. Now I see how you were able to put so much spirit into your music, your singing. War, disaster, and I can imagine how much you Japanese boys and girls must be suffering in peasant Japan.
It's true that we've suffered from misfortune many times. However, the true misfortune is when you let the misery get into your heart, and you lose the ability to find happiness. We use music to find a tiny ray of light peeking through the clouds of misfortune. We keep moving towards that light. We believe that we'll be able to find happiness eventually, if we keep walking forward. Zell's splendid Chinese speech earned a big round of applause from the reporters. The director clapped unrestrainedly too, then put a hand on Zell's shoulder and posed as though recommending her talent. A new singer appears with high praise from the Director Kazan. That would probably be plastered across all the papers tonight. Director Kazan was a Greek, born in 1909 in Istanbul of the Ottoman Empire. I don't know why that was hard to say, but it was. However, in 1912, the First Balkan War broke out. The Balkan League, which included his fatherland Greece, declared war against the Ottoman Empire. At that instant, he and his family in Istanbul became members of an enemy nation. His family escaped from Istanbul and immigrated to America. They would remain settled there. The shock of his familiar hometown suddenly becoming enemy territory probably had a considerable effect on young Kazan. It isn't certain whether that had a noticeable impact on his later works, but the possibility can't be denied.
Later on, he moved into the realm of theater and then movies, before making his Hollywood debut in 1944 with A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. Then, in 1947, he released the much commented upon and controversial Gentleman's Agreement. This work was well praised, receiving the awards for Best Picture, Best Directing, and Best Supporting Actress in the 20th Academy Awards. The man's name was Elia Kazan. Director Elia Kazan would later make East of Eden, a movie which would be in the spotlight for having James Dean's first leading role. How has life in Japan been for you all? Is the restoration by the occupying forces helping to bring back the Japanese lifestyle? The misfortune of the war is over now. We'll do all we can to save our neighbors.
Thank you very much for your reassuring words.
Kazan certainly hadn't decided to join in on this farce because money had changed hands. He was Jewish himself. In that era, they had it rough even in America. Because of that, he was more sensitive than anyone regarding the taboo of racial discrimination, and he took it seriously. Even the Academy Award-winning Gentleman's Agreement took up the issue of discrimination against Jews. A certain writer pretended to be Jewish to gather materials for an article. As soon as he did, the people in the city changed suddenly. All sorts of people began silently rejecting the main character, who was claiming to be Jewish. It was a work that fiercely attacked that unwritten law, that gentleman's agreement of racism. Because he was that sort of person, he was probably very understanding of how Japanese Americans suffered in wartime America. After the outbreak of the Pacific War, Americans of Japanese descent became members of an enemy nation overnight. That was similar to his own past. It wouldn't be odd at all if he sympathized with people of Japanese descent who had their assets confiscated and were thrown into concentration camps. For all these reasons, one could probably say it was natural for him to sympathize with Japanese people in this era. When he was told Japanese orphans have formed a band and are making a name for themselves downtown, so could you please support them? Kazan couldn't refuse. Sadly, racism is still prominent in the world. People who deny this are simply ignoring that silent gentleman's agreement. Even in my America, Japanese people were the pitiable targets of discrimination. It's a disgrace for a civilized nation. Should we understand the events within Gentleman's Agreement to be a real problem in America rather than fiction? That is correct. As an American, I found it necessary to protest those shameful crimes against humanity. My. Unfortunately, he's getting quite passionate about this. Alongside the director speaking fervently about the problem of racial discrimination, the Major General was chuckling. He may have been trying to address the issue of racism, but the Chinese reporters would probably make an article about how American director decries America as a racist country. The purpose of this press conference wasn't just to give Zell and the others a famous director's seal of approval. It was also part of the propaganda war waged by the Chinese military's Department for the Strategic Promotion of Culture and the Arts. This incident would cause great trouble for Elia Kazan later on. Because of his relationship with a Chinese military official and the articles from this time, in addition to his history as a former communist, he would be suspected of being a communist by the House Committee of Un-American Activities in 1952. This was right during the middle of the Red Scare. America was strengthening its opposition to the communist camp, and overwhelmed with attempts at the and overwhelmed with attempts at the social eradication of its sympathizers. Several movie makers had already been branded as communists and expelled from the world of film production. He probably wanted to remain a filmmaker. As part of a plea bargain to remove suspicion from himself, Kazan sold out 11 other filmmakers by condemning them as communists. The betrayal of this man, who was loved as the socially aware and sensible filmmaker who created Gentleman's Agreement, left filmmakers deeply disappointed. That case would remain as a blot on his history for the rest of his life. Even in 1998, when he was approaching his final years, that blot hadn't disappeared. In that year, during the ceremony in which he earned an honorary Academy Award, not only was the applause sparse, but there were even demonstrations opposing his being granted the award. Was he a filmmaker worthy of respect or not? We can only leave his appraisal to the filmmakers who came after him. However, it would probably be hard to evaluate him unless you understand the everyday racism that covered the world at that time. Because he knew racism more than anyone and feared it more than anyone, he must have feared the brand of communist in America at that time better than anyone. In that case, let's hear that angelic singing once more before the director leaves Japan tomorrow. Let's have the gentlemen of the press join in and enjoy the musical world of the Wandering Cats. After receiving an introduction like that, there is nothing else to worry about. From the start, Oliver, Charles, and Nina's skill with instruments, as well as Zell's singing, had been splendid. The reporters stood up even before the hired applauders and greeted the performance with a massive standing ovation. Starting that night, the local papers from the cities around City 22 started talking about the four all the time. The angelic voice amidst the war orphans. A band of boys and girls highly praised by director Kazan. Of course, that was also distributed in the Japanese versions, and it became the only topic of conversation among the Japanese of Tokyo for a while. With this, everything was ready. They were the Wandering Cats, the big new band of boys and girls, praised by director Kazan and recommended by Major General Zhou. They were more than popular enough to be asked as guests to one's restaurant. And that's where I'll leave it for now, because I'm recording during a little bit of a heat wave. And it warm. It's too hot to keep going. I would love it to keep going, but I will melt. And I can't keep reading if I'm melted, so a little bit of a short one this time. But I will be back next week. And then hopefully unmelted. So that's yep, that's the plan. All right. Oh my god, it's so warm. Okay, yeah, no, I'm out of here. This is gonna be the quickest outro I've ever done in my life. And yeah, I won't regret it, because again, melting. Alright. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back next week with another episode. Yeah, no, thanks for watching, for all the YouTube stuff that you hear. We don't do that here. Just thank you. What is left is for me to wish you an unmelted day, month, week, year, and may you stay unmelted. Thank you again for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.